Hi, this is Elizabeth Stein of Belly and Body Care with the interview series on self-love. And today's guest is Kelsey Leahy. And Kelsey, I will let you say a little bit about yourself if you'd like to share.
Sure thing. So I'm Kelsey. I mostly play the oboe and fold origami. I am also a poet. I'm known as Origami Mommy, and so I will share a brief segment of one of my introductory poems, if I may. It's
Of
the answer
course.
to the question, "Who am I?" Because it can get confusing. So I get a lot of questions when I wander and travel and appear in different places. So I have this series of answers to 5 or 6 common questions that I get. And the last one is the one where you actually get my name, which you've already given. So spoiler alert. Who am I? I am a professional musician with a wide range of interests, skills, and abilities. I find it difficult to sit still due to the myriad thoughts and melodies running through my mind at any given moment. I fold origami to focus the energy. The pieces are a convenient icebreaker, and creating them keeps me tied to a place long enough to get comfortable. Once I feel comfortable in a given situation or space, I can think about producing sound and creating music. I strive to make music with anyone and every genre. I only need to ask, or to be asked. I enjoy putting myself in new social situations, which gives some explanation to my degree in sociology. The rest is that my life has been a series of social experiments. Too much context can get confusing and distracting, so I have been refining my context, and this is it. My name is Kelsey Leahy, and I am exceedingly useful. I am known as Vagabond Oboist and Origami Mommy, and I like to help out where I can. I show up and I do things. I believe in kindness, and that every breath is an opportunity. I make my own reeds. It's tedious, but I love it. I sell the reeds to my students, and I'm always accepting those willing to learn. You can find out more about me at oborockstar.com. Who else would have that domain? So that's one of my tongue-in-cheek answers to the question of who am I? That's me in a nutshell.
As you have that big oak tree behind you. Has a new meaning. Oh my gosh, I love that. And we've actually known each other for quite a couple of years.
I think 3 years now.
3 years. It feels like forever because I know that I've seen your face in the community, and we have a lot of I guess friends that overlap. But I don't know. It's just one of the timeless connections. They're like friendships that you just you feel a connection with somebody, and it just sort of has no time, has no boundaries or borders in terms of where you are on the planet, or what's going on in your life. And so yeah, you're definitely one of those people for me. And it's always been magical when we've crossed paths. It's been this amazing serendipity and some cool event or somebody's cool house. You just happen to be there. You just come out poof, I am here. Yep.
So I show up and I do things.
You really do. You really do. And for those listening, you remind me of kind of those old days, those wandering, because you're such an artist, and with words and music and things with your hands. You remind me of one of those wandering the bards that told stories and parables through their poetry and their song. And so I think you're a modern day farmer bard artist.
Yeah. Farmer bard. So Vagabond Oboist is not simply my Instagram handle, but a way of living my truth out loud, visible, present, and seen in all forms, even when no one else is around. So there's another poem. There's lots of words. But yeah, the bardic energy is strong, and I've kind of fallen into that more heavily in the last couple years of doing earth skills gatherings and going to the different gatherings in the woods, and just getting to see how I can show up in these spaces, in these beautiful, safe spaces with a whole bunch of really remarkable humans, and sharing stories and songs is one of the ways that I can. And it feels really nice to do it. It feels nice to share in that way.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for showing up, because today's topic I feel is a very important topic, and you must feel that way too, because you showed up when I asked for people that were willing and wanted to be interviewed. And this topic, self-love. So let me pose the question to you, my traveling bard mystic. What is self-love to you?
Self-love is tending to yourself. So there's that sociologist background, and there's two camps sort of in sociology. One that says there is a small nugget of self that is yourself and it exists no matter what. And then the other camp is, it says self is situationally created. So there is no true self. It is all just a matter of perception and what you're surrounded by and what you choose to do with your life. I'm sort of in the middle, or something where I do feel like there is some sort of deep nugget of self that is within all of us. But it's a lot bigger and more abstract, I think, than some people realize. So self-love to me is tending to that core of who you are and what you want to do and where you want to be and how you want to spend your time, and living your life in such a way that encourages that self-building and encourages your ego to build, and not in an unhealthy way, not being an egomaniac, but just being aware that there's something in here that is uniquely you. We are also uniquely us, and we are made up of all of our experiences and all of our histories, and not just our personal history, but our ancestral history. And so just living a life where you're kind to yourself, where you take care of your physical form and your mental form. Again, the sociologist in me thinks a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and tending to your safety and security needs, your food, your water, your shelter, making sure you have these bases covered so that you can move up the triangle and find community and find tribe and find love and eventually find self-actualization at the tip. Again, the self-love, tending to all of the things that you need to survive in this world of physicalness, physical self, physical being, and taking care of your mental aspects as well, because it's all so interconnected, all these concentric circles, like the circles we've been traveling in to find each other in different gatherings at different places and spaces. And it's also really, it's beautifully interconnected. So self-love to me is seeing the way that everything is connected, and seeing that you and I and all of us as individuals are tied into this larger network of humanity. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention you're calling in from Georgia.
Yes.
Somewhere in Georgia farmland. May I say where you're from?
So I am in Maysville, Georgia right now, working on a farm property for a family that I've known for a few years now, and I've been working with them for the last year and a half, and kind of in between Lawrenceville and here, getting them settled in. But I travel in between Atlanta and here. I go to Tennessee and North Carolina sometimes. So I am, as you said, the wandering bard mystic.
I loved, like, as you were talking, like Maslow and all that stuff, like I had this impression of like tending a little seed, because both of you and I have quite an agricultural background. Like I call myself a compulsive gardener. Like I have to have plants, I put things in soil. Like I just have, that's just part of me. And I know that you spent time on different farms and CSAs and dedicated a lot of energy into tending to plants. So listening to you and the topic of self-love, I got this real impression of like, really nurturing and growing, like, something that may start as a small seed. And then, when we're like babies, or even if we're like adults working on this topic, but we still have to tend to it and water it, weed around it, take out this like negative thoughts and criticisms. And, and then eventually like we have something that like pushes up and, bears fruit or a beautiful flower.
Yeah, and I worked on a farm for 3 months in 2021, and one of my main roles was tending to the seedlings. So I was in the potting shed planting all the seeds in the trays and then just taking care of them and watering them twice a day. And then moving them to what we call the caterpillar outside. And I would have to go every day during my watering, and I would have to check for slugs underneath all the starter trays because the slugs would just try to decimate the population. So it was very much attending and protecting and just watching them grow. All the little new leaves. I was pruning some indoor house plants last night, and I was just getting so excited at all the fresh little leaves that were coming in. And they're happy to be inside because it's been a little frosty the last couple nights. So yeah, tending. A lot of tending.
Yeah, would you say that there's a parallel between the kind of the tending and agriculture and just the tending and the self-love for you as well?
Yeah, because it's, plants, they need water, they need air, they need sunlight, they need their food, they need water and food, and so do we. And that's one way that I have to work sort of hard at to tend to my own self, is to feed myself and make sure that I am providing myself enough good nutrients and a good environment to grow and flourish. Um, so yeah, the plants, because they need a lot, and the more love you give them, the more they grow, and then the more love they need. So it's like this endless cycle. I worked a lot with the tomatoes and cucumbers, like an excessive amount, just headlamp in the middle of the night working on these greenhouse tomatoes. But they need a lot, and they want a lot, and they can take a lot. So, and then they produce, all these good fruits until the stink bugs or birds get to them. And details.
Yes, Curtis. And then you had mentioned the part about, when we have these bases met and we're growing and getting stronger, this piece called self-actualization. Now, for those listening that may not be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, what is self-actualization?
It's realizing your full and highest self. So knowing who you are and what you stand for and what you believe in. So for instance, I believe in karma and nature and kindness. Uh, a friend of mine gave me an exercise a while back, and he said, who are you? Like, what are you? What are you exactly? And so my 3 words are, I am grace, patience, and integrity. Because if I can stand with integrity in myself, everything else is kind of secondary. And if I can stand with grace and poise and sit with patience, and because patience is a practice, patience is often a practice in my life in so many different facets. So I am grace, patience, and integrity. I believe in karma and nature and kindness. I like living in concert with the earth. I must play music like all the time. I have an ocarina that I wear around my neck always, so there's always an instrument on me aside from my voice. My body is a drum, like all the things. But having the little ocarina, it's just this really beautiful way since 2019 that I've had it literally on my person every day. So there's just these things that I do and these behaviors that I have that make up kind of the core of who I am and how I present to the world. And I'm not quite, there's always room to be more self-actualized. But I'm in a much more grounded place than I have been in the past. Yeah.
Was would you say self-love is always something that you felt like you were very good at with yourself, or has it been kind of a journey?
It's been a journey. It was tricky. It's always tricky because it's all about finding balance, and you can't love others until you can love yourself. And I had that backwards for a while. So I was in relationships, romantic and otherwise, that I was giving too much of myself away, and I wasn't tending to my own self first. So I was trying to be in a presence in someone else's life when I couldn't even really be fully present in my own life, which just made my life more difficult. It made their life more difficult. It just wasn't an ideal situation. So so I wouldn't say I've struggled, might be a little harsh, but I have wrestled and with self-love over the years, not fully realizing my own power and my own potential, because that's a big part of it, right? Like you meet someone like, oh my gosh, this person is so amazing, I'm so smitten with this human, and you don't realize that you what is it, Tova, she's the one who introduced the phrase, we are each other's mirror. And so when you feel so strongly about someone, you're seeing yourself in them. But for me, I was so enamored or just in awe of certain people that I couldn't see myself. Like I was seeing myself in them, but ignoring the fact that it was myself, that I was also that beautiful, that talented, that X, Y, and Z, strong and powerful. Um, So seeing myself, and that's been the last couple of years, really going down and spending the 3 months on that farm and then coming back, and all of the places and spaces that I've been since then. It's all been this learning process of, oh, I am strong as hell and I can do all of these things and I can do anything that I intend to. I just have to be willing and able to do the work. And being able to do the work involves taking care of the physical form, which is immediately and inextricably tied into my oboe playing. So oboe is my main passion. I'm a professional oboist, but it's such a physical thing that I have to be healthy. If I'm not physically healthy, I cannot play the oboe. So it's been this really nice way of maintaining my physical health and maintaining my mental health by making sure I am capable of playing the oboe, which I am, and I'm even consistently practicing these days. Today was day 318 in a row of doing a daily practice, a very prescribed practice with a metronome, by one of the oboe instructors on one of the Facebook groups. He was like, I have this new warm-up book of long tones and scales and arpeggios, and it's all with the metronome. So it's like working up the tempo every 25 days. So it's day 318. I'm almost at a year with the
Yay!
metronome for the first time in 20 years of playing the oboe. Like,
Wow.
and that to me, like and it's generally the first thing I do when I wake up, and it is self-love. This is important to me. The oboe is important to me. So I'm going to make sure that no matter what happens throughout my day, I can take at least 20 or 30 minutes and sit with my oboe. And if there's nothing else that I do oboe related, at least there was that. Yeah. Because I love the
That's
oboe. It's fun.
I love that you love the oboe. Oh, almost like I want to hear you play the oboe. Um,
It's in the van. It's over there.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, because an oboe is like it's a big, heavy instrument, right? Like how much does it weigh? No, it's not.
It's about the size of a clarinet. It looks like a clarinet, but so clarinets are tubular. So they're one diameter all the way up and down, aside from the mouthpiece and the bell. And an oboe is conical, so it's really thin at the top and then it flares out at the bottom. But it's only about that big around.
Oh,
And the main difference is the reed. So the oboe is a double reed instrument, whereas the clarinet and saxophones are single reed. So the reed on a saxophone and clarinet gets put onto the mouthpiece and then attached with a ligature. But the oboe reed is just a reed, and you can actually make noise with just the reed itself, which is really fun. It makes a little squeak sound. Dogs love it. Sometimes they hate it. There was one dog that really didn't like my oboe playing. She would bark at me a lot. But mostly we're cool. They just get a little confused. What is that noise?
So it sounds like a big piece of that self-love, like the big piece of that tending is really tending to your body, you know, making sure like your body is strong and well fed, well watered, well rested, like all those real basic things that sometimes we can take for granted. I know I can when I get really busy and like big projects coming on. It's like, oh wait, yeah, I gotta like get enough sleep, get enough water,
Yeah.
get enough good food. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my dearest friends from Spartanburg, she used to say, she still says, but she taught me there's three things. So if you're feeling some type of way, you need to check in with yourself, and you need to ask yourself if you have eaten, which includes water, if you have slept, and if you have showered. And if you haven't done, once you do all of those things, if you're still feeling some type of way, then dive a little deeper. I added a secondary layer to the showering, which is washing my hair, because I don't wash my hair hardly ever.
The long hair. Do you have long hair?
Yeah, it's a little shorter now. My Georgia mom just trimmed it.
Oh,
So it's all happy, and my hair gets really curly. But I have, I wash it. I put a little bit of soap in it every couple weeks sometimes, and then occasionally I use my psoriasis shampoo. But I try not to use that too much because it makes my hair too clean. And then I can't put it up in a braid. I can't put it up in my hair stick. It's just this mess of, I don't even know. But
the
every
fly.
now and again, yeah, it just flies everywhere. But if I'm really not feeling well, and I've done, I've eaten, I've had water, I've slept, I've showered, but if I haven't washed my hair, sometimes that's the trick to make me actually get back to myself, just kind of wash away all of the nonsense.
I'm glad you shared that because long hair, I think it's a long, crazy hair. And
Hmm.
I don't always wash my hair every day. It's not practical. And then when
No.
it's cold out, it's like, you got like that hair, got to deal with the blow dryer and yeah, it's the thing. So I don't wash my hair every day, but sometimes if I'm feeling that funky, I'm like, wait, did I wash my hair? Okay, get back up, go wash your hair. And I always feel better. And I usually sleep better as long as I'm not sleeping on wet hair. I usually
Yeah.
sleep better. Yeah. So that's a
Mhm.
thing. It's almost like it picks up all the like the weird, like the dirt, but like also maybe the energies, who knows.
Yeah. And so sometimes instead of washing, I'll just comb my hair out with, ready for this? Da, 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 da. This is my comb. I
Wow,
made
did
it.
you? Oh, you did.
Mhm.
That's great.
Made out of cherry wood. So like a nice combed head of hair change your life.
I
Yeah.
agree. I can totally concur with that. It's even better. You get bonus points if you made your own.
Yeah. Oh, the dog, I was painting somewhere yesterday, and it was in the bathroom painting, and then I hear the little tiny dog, and he's clattering down the stairs with something, and I look out, and he had like gotten in my purse to take this out of my bag and was trying to walk away with it. And I was like, dude, I worked really hard on that comb. Please don't take it away. Um, so he gave it back to me. Dogs.
Maybe like because it smells like you. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So self-care is really important to self-love and personal hygiene as well. But
Hmm.
on like kind of like a spiritual cleansing practice almost.
Yeah. 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 It can
Yeah.
be a shower. It can be a dip in whatever body of water. So at the gathering, I went to the Firefly gathering in outside of Asheville in June, and made this with Baron. and that property has 2 lakes on it. And it was, it was June, it was hot. I was doing setup and breakdown crew, and there were some days during the event and during setup and breakdown where I was just so hot that I would, and so overworked and just exhausted. And all I could do is just strip down to my skivvies and jump in the pond, climb out, jump in the pond, climb out, jump in the pond, and just having that refresh and having that shock to the system from the really hot to the cold water a few times. That was, I mean, so good. Saved me, saved my life, got me through it. And then I was able to go back and, dry out in the nice warm sun and be surrounded by all these beautiful humans. Go make some cool stuff.
Feel accomplished because you have cool stuff you can actually hold and be like, tell a story about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was funny that because the day I signed up to take the class, I had jumped in the pond and then went to go see the class sign up board, and like my hair was all wet. And I was like, oh man, I should have brought my comb, because my comb was at my camp way far away. I was like, oh, my hair is all wet now and I could really use a hair comb. And then lo and behold, there was a class about making a comb. Okay, I'll go do that.
You ask and you shall receive. You'll just make it yourself.
Yeah.
And there's something though about having like that tangible piece of artistry that's so useful that you can remind yourself of like your skills and your accomplishments. Like, I made this.
Yeah.
It's like there's something really so satisfying about that. It's like to remind yourself like how capable you actually are. And remember you had said,
Yeah.
you're unbelievably strong and amazing you've discovered about yourself. So here's your reminder.
Yeah. That's it. Reminds the strong comment, because you were talking about, being taking care of your body and being well fed and well watered. Also need to be well worked. Like I love splitting wood. I love being physical and doing physical labor. And it's exhausting, but if I don't have that in my life, I miss it. Like my body needs to be doing that work. And it's how I don't work out. I don't go to the gym. I've never done that. It's not been a way for me to operate, but I work out by working. I worked at a gas station for 3 years. I worked at AmeriCorps service for a year, cutting down trees and such and doing trail maintenance. And then I went to that farm. So like, all of these things have been work, like hard work, labor work, and it's made me very strong and capable. And I've learned so many cool things in all of these different journeys that I've been on. I like working. I like using my body. I like using my physical form. I like using my mind to figure out how can we better work this system, all the things.
I remember I was listening to Tim Ferriss a while back, and when he was teaching himself how to hunt and gut an animal and build a house from hand, like he was learning these skills, and he said that it was such a boost to his confidence to know that if he ever like had to start over, or if he's ever lost in the woods somewhere, like he actually had skills keep him alive and fed and sheltered, like just those practical things that we don't think about sometimes so much anymore if we're not in that environment. But it actually can be a boost to the sense of self and like your self autonomy.
Yeah, and that's been a big part of my earth skills journey. So the Firefly Gathering and the other gatherings in the region, there are 5 that I go to throughout the year, and I started last September going to Piedmont. And at my first gathering, I made friction fire with a bow drill. I made cordage out of cedar bark, so we turned bark and twiddled it until it became cordage. And I made a knife, blacksmithed a knife,
Very
and
nice.
then made a sheath for the knife. And So that was September, and then there was another one in October, and then February, April, and June. And I've started that cycle over again this year. And those gatherings and just getting back to those ancestral skills and all of that knowledge and wisdom that has been, that, you know, everybody has found it. All of the people that are here today can trace their roots back somewhere to these primitive skills that we need
Primitive.
to survive. Primitive, right? But it's
It's
not
so
just primitive, it's practical. It's the, how do you survive in the world that you exist in? And, you know, there's talk of permaculture in gardening and farming, using the resources that you have. And it was that in February at the Florida gathering that I started really thinking about urban permaculture. Because yes, there, you know, it's really cool to be able to just go back to nature and do the things the way that they were done in the beginning of time. But what's also cool is to see what present reality is and what can you do with the resources you have. And the thought really kind of coalesced when the Dead Cat Camp folks were making their fire pit, and they called it urbanite, which is what they used to make their fire ring. It was, you know, pieces of concrete bricks, and they called it urbanite. And they're just using the things that exist.
the last part got cut off. The connection. Just like, what was you called it, urbanite? Then
So concrete blocks. So, you know, you have cinder blocks that are broken up. And so we had found a bunch of broken cinder block pieces in the woods, and they used those to ring their fire pit and called it urbanite. So that kind of got me more down the rabbit hole of urban permaculture, of using the scraps and resources that we have, that we create in this world that we live in, of technology and infrastructure and travel, and all the humanity. But how can you use what you have to better your life and to better your community's life and to minimally impact the world? And, you know, the world as a community, but also the world as this natural object. And so, for instance, in my travels, I love thrift shop finds, and I try not to go out of my way for things. So if I'm traveling, and I need something, like, oh, I need a raincoat, for instance. So I went and just, you know, looked for thrift shops along my route, and happened and found a perfect raincoat that I was able to bring to the firefly gathering, because it rained just about every day. And so I had this nice coat that could just cover all of me and all of my baggage. But I wasn't about to go to a big box store and buy a brand new thing, because there's just so much that goes into making new items. So if you can just use what you have and make do with whatever you can get your hands on, and just being minimally impactful on the environment, I think is important. I know is important.
I agree. It goes back to that self-reliance and also being creative, and being like creatively use what you have in a way that positively impacts your life or your world or your community. So that to me definitely feels like a self, at least a self-esteem boost, which definitely waters self-love.
Yeah.
So are there any like closing notes or remarks or anything that you'd love to share, you know, on this topic, just kind of coming in for a landing?
I have one poem. I have a poem that I would like to share. It's a love poem. It's a self-love poem, in fact. But before I share that, just talking about the community aspect of things, and like being a self-loving, you know, loving yourself, loving your community. And what I have found is that it's really powerful to just exist and just to be visible as this person that I am, and it draws people in. Because like we're all unique and special individuals, but we're also not special at all. Everybody is like this. So I try to live my life in this wide open way where I'm inviting people in to live the life as well. I'm not trying to say, I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. No, it's like, this is how I'm living my life, and you can live your life how you want to. And it's that kind of open invitation to people to say, you can do what you want to do. You can be who you want to be. And it's about being kind and being gentle. Yeah, and just be. So there's a poem, a self-love poem. It might be a little weird. I don't know. We'll see. I wrote it when I was living on Cape Cod, doing AmeriCorps service, and we were quarantined at the house because pandemics and group housing don't work apparently. So the program got shut down at the end of May. But I got this poem out of it. Okay. Love means different things at different times. I am finally able to be myself, by myself, with myself. I exist on my own merits. There are things for me to do. I have a mission and a vision, goals in mind to achieve. There are some times when the main goal is simply to rest, to slow down long enough to truly gather myself and breathe. That has always been the theme, but it has looked very different throughout the years. Time keeps pressing forward and the past comes into focus. It becomes easy to see the patterns. Sometimes survival is the best deliverable. I'm still here, standing tall, stronger than ever. I've accomplished much throughout my life, all while carrying an excess of baggage. How will I exist without so many burdens? I have enjoyed the learning process of coming to grips with my past, understanding my various selves and consolidating them into a singular identity. I am simply me, Kelsey, present and accounted for. I've been here all along. It has just taken the universe and me some time to catch up. The pandemic has caused us all to pause. A new world order is upon us, some say. I say it is well past time for a change. We have been due for an upheaval. Who among us is prepared? Who will carry on? And I like to think we will, definitely.
I think so, especially with that public service and the beautiful poem. To reframe for those that, big scary pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely scary, but more so a good pause, I would say. Yeah, I love that, and I love what you said. Is I think that's really important. Just even pause on as well. That allowing yourself to be and show up as you are, who you are, and like let that be the invitation, like, like this is me. And like part of that sounds like to me, reflecting back at you, is like really embracing who you are, not resisting like this artistic, out of the box poet, modern day wandering farmer and poet and all the many other things are. It's just like, okay, this is what I am. It's like wearing your heart on your sleeve. And like, if people want to engage with you and they love you and delight in you, or they don't, it's like, here's where
Not everyone likes it. Some people get freaked out by it sometimes. It's fair. It's fair. I'm a lot to handle. I'm better in small doses most of the time.
You're a breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
How many of us are brave enough to really live outside of those society boxes, that people are comfortable with, like what's known and what's familiar and how things have been done. Even though it's all been done before, like there's nothing ever really new. We just kind of repackage it all the time. Yeah, so no, we need the bards and the mystics to kind of shake us up and give us different perspectives on reality. So that's just really beautiful to like just witness you, like it's like landing in your own heart and being okay with that.
Yeah. Sitting with myself in the rain. It's another poem. Anyway, I don't remember that one. Yeah, sitting with myself in the rain, not waiting out the rain, just like sitting with it and just being with the present reality. And not trying to wish for something else, not trying to wish for it to change, just knowing that it will change eventually because everything changes. Just kind of sitting with yourself where you are, when you are, and being the best version of yourself. It's the 4 agreements: always do your best and know that your best is in a constant state of flux. So your best on on your best days is one thing. Your best on your worst day is a very different thing, but you can still be your best on your worst day. It just looks different. And being patient with yourself goes back to
Yeah.
the grace, patience, and integrity, giving yourself grace to not be the best version of yourself of all time at all times. Being patient with yourself as you work through whatever pain you're going through, and then having the integrity to stand with yourself and say, even though I wasn't my best, my absolute best today, I still stand with integrity that I was my best version of myself that I could be today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. This was fun.
This was delightful. And always lovely to connect with fellow artists. I'm
Yeah.
wandering back, and I haven't been a vagabond for a while, but I also love to wander.
Yeah.
I'm about to get my vagabond shoes on. But
Cool.
the Kelsey is delightful. I'll put at the bottom of this show where people can find you, because you have a website.
I do. Yep.
And some of those sources that we've mentioned, like the Earth Skills gatherings, the 4 agreements, always a good one. So until our paths cross again.
Uh-oh. Frozen.
Frozen in the show. It's oh, we'll give it a minute. Okay. Well, that was my guest, Kelsey. And yeah, we'll put it all at the bottom so you can find out more and follow her on her journeys.